If you were sitting here in 2026 thinking, I'm just going to wait for the perfect time to buy,
everything has to be perfect.
that decision could end up costing you a lot more than you realize, because the perfect time to buy a home almost never feels perfect while you are living in it. The perfect time usually only becomes obvious much later on in hindsight. And in real estate, hindsight can be a very expensive luxury. So today I want to answer one of the biggest questions that I am getting right now. It's 2026. Should you buy a home or should you wait? And just like every single video I put out, I'm going to be honest with you. There's risk either way. If you wait and you're wrong, you could lose time, lose inventory, options, and potentially lose tens of thousands of dollars in equity. If you buy and you're wrong, you could feel stretched thin, stressed out, regret the monthly payment, and wind up house poor. So the real goal isn't to be right about the market. The goal is to make a decision that actually fits your life. Because real estate is not a game of perfect timing. It is a game of smart timing. And there's a big difference. Here's what's interesting right now. 2026 is shaping up to be one of the most balanced housing markets that we've seen in years. And let me explain what that actually means, because balanced does not mean cheap. A balanced market is basically the housing market's version of normal. It's when the supply and demand are closer to even, so neither buyers nor sellers have a huge advantage. One of the easiest ways to measure that is looking at the months of supply, which tells us how long it would take to sell everything currently on the market at today's pace. In general, under 4 months tends to favor sellers. Around 4 to 6 months is considered balanced, and over 6 months starts favoring buyers. Recently, Realtor.com has described the market as moving into balanced territory, with about 4.6 months of supply on average. Now, here's the key point. A balanced market doesn't automatically mean prices drop. Prices are still high in many areas because we are coming off of several years of strong appreciation and limited inventory. So if you're waiting for major price reductions across the board, you might be waiting a long time. What a balanced market does mean is that the process can become more rational, more negotiating, more breathing room, more seller credits, less chaos, and honestly, after the last few years, that alone is a big change. You may not get a discount, but you might finally get a fair shot. Before we move on, if you find any of my videos useful, make sure to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I try to post new and genuinely helpful content every week. Okay, let's rewind a bit for context, because if you've been paying attention the last few years, you've basically lived through a real estate soap opera. 2020 was just insanity. 2021 was bidding war chaos. In 2022, mortgage rates started rising fast. Buyers were nervous because nobody wanted to buy right before a price drop. Then 2023 and 2024 turned into what I'd call the affordability crunch. Rates bounced around and prices stayed higher than most people expected. And the crash that people were predicting, well, it never really showed up the way the internet promised it would. Then 2025 came along and something shifted. Mortgage rates ended 2025 near their lowest levels of the year, around 6.15% according to Freddie Mac. Not 3%, not even close, but lower than where we were. And the outlook for 2026 seems to be a gradual improvement, not dramatic relief. And inventory, well, it's recovering in a lot of areas, but most forecasts are calling for steady progress, not some huge flood of listings. So if you're waiting for this magical moment where rates drop to 3% and prices drop 20% at the exact same time, that usually requires something we don't want: a major economic downturn. And most people who say they want that don't actually want the consequences that come along with it. Because when the economy gets ugly, job security gets ugly too. This is the closest we have been to normal in a very long time. And in real estate, normal is actually kind of a big deal. Okay, here's the truth. Buying a home is not about timing the market. It's about timing your life. So before you obsess over whether 2026 is actually balanced, ask yourself something way more important. Do you have real stability? When I say stability, I mean stable employment, consistent income, stable relationships, and a time horizon of at least 5 to 7 years. Because if you don't have those things, even a full percentage point rate drop wouldn't make buying a home a smart move. A cheaper mortgage doesn't fix instability. It just gives you a cheaper way to stress out. So here's the decision framework that doesn't change. This is the part I want you to remember, even if you forget everything else that I say today, because these are the questions that matter in any market. Number one, can you comfortably afford the payment? Not do you love the house, not does it feel exciting, not can we make it work if we really try. The real question is, can you afford it today without relying on refinancing to save you? Because if your plan is, I'll just refinance later so this works, that's not really a plan. That's a gamble. Refinancing should not be a strategy. It should be a bonus. Number two, are you buying for the right reason? Buying because you're afraid of missing out? Weak reason. Buying because your life is stable and you want long-term housing security? Totally different. Because here is the truth. There is no such thing as a 30-year fixed rent payment. Rent goes up. It just does. Maybe not every year, but long term it does. A fixed mortgage is one of the few ways to lock in a large part of your housing cost for decades. And that's a powerful thing. Number three, will you stay long enough for the math to work? This is the one that gets people in trouble. Short-term mindsets create long-term regret. If you are buying a home and you're thinking, well, we might move again in 2 years, you need to slow down because buying and selling is expensive. Between closing costs, moving costs, repairs, and commissions, you need time for the math to work in your favor. In most cases, you want at least 5 to 7 years. And if you're not sure you'll stay that long, then you need to think carefully. This is where people get stuck. Waiting feels safe because it feels like you're avoiding a mistake. But waiting is not neutral. Waiting has risk as well. Because prices can rise, rates can rise, competition can return, and inventory can tighten again. Even modest appreciation adds up over time. According to the Federal Housing Finance Agency, U.S. home prices were up just over 1% year over year as of Q4 of 2025. That's not the frenzy of 2021, but it's still growth, despite years of crash predictions. And that's the key point. The market doesn't need to boom for waiting to cost you money. Now, I want to say something that I think is important, and I want to say it very carefully, because this isn't meant to shame anyone, but it is reality. Data consistently shows that homeowners have a much higher median net worth than renters. A study a few years ago showed that homeowners' net worth is around $400,000, while renters' net worth is just over $10,000. And no, homeownership doesn't magically make you wealthy. It's not a lottery ticket, but it creates structure. Because when you own a home, you pay down principal. You benefit from long-term appreciation. You lock in housing costs. You build equity over time. And yes, in theory, you can rent and invest the difference in the stock market. And if you do that consistently, that can work. But let's be honest, most people don't. Most people rent, and the difference disappears into life. Here's the good news. A balanced market isn't necessarily cheap, but it can be rational. And rational is what buyers have been missing for years. In a balanced market, you may be able to negotiate, ask for seller credits, take your time, avoid bidding wars, and walk away from bad houses without panic. For prepared buyers, that's leverage. And we haven't seen much of that since 2020. So 2026 might not be the cheapest market, but it could be one of the more reasonable markets we have seen. And honestly, that's a pretty solid trade from what we've had the last few years. If you're debating buying this year, I want you to stop staring at the headlines and start focusing on the things that you can actually control. Because you cannot control mortgage rates. You cannot control what other buyers do. You cannot control how many homes hit the market this spring. But you can control how prepared you are when the right opportunity shows up. So here are the big things I want you to focus on. Number one, your credit score. This one is huge. Even small improvements can make a meaningful difference in your interest rate, and that can impact your monthly payment more than most people realize. The frustrating part is a lot of buyers wait until they're already shopping to look at their credit. If you're thinking about buying in 2026, you want to be working on this now. Pay down revolving balances. Don't open new accounts unless you absolutely have to. And if you're not sure where you stand, get a lender to run the numbers with you and tell you exactly what to focus on. Number 2, your cash position. And I'm not just talking about the down payment. I'm talking about your reserves, what you have left after closing, because owning a home is not just about getting the keys. It's about being able to handle the first year. The first year is when you buy blinds, you buy lawn equipment, you fix the thing that wasn't a big deal during the show. And even in a balanced market, you don't want to buy a house and end up broke on day one. Number 3, your payment comfort. This is one of the best reality checks that you can do. If your projected mortgage payment is $2,000 and you are renting for $1,200, try setting aside that extra $800 every month for 90 days. If that feels overwhelming, that tells you something. If it feels manageable, you're proving you can handle the payment and building savings at the same time. Either way, you're getting a real answer, not just a hopeful guess. Number 4, your expectation. This one doesn't get talked about enough. In 2026, a lot of buyers are still shopping with 2019 expectations. They want a perfect house in a perfect neighborhood at a perfect price with a perfect mortgage rate. And I hate to break it to you, but that combo usually doesn't exist. Part of being prepared is getting really honest about what matters most. Is it the school district? Is it the commute? Is it the layout? Is it the monthly payment? Because if you're clear on your non-negotiables, you make better decisions and you avoid a lot of regret. And if you're not clear, that's when people overpay for shiny features they don't actually care about long term. All right, here's the blunt answer. If you have stability, steady job and income, a plan to stay in place for 5 years or so, strong or improving credit, solid cash reserves, and a payment that fits your life, then stop trying to time the market and start focusing on buying the right house. Because the right house bought at the right time in your life usually beats the perfect market every time. But if you don't have those pieces in place, waiting is fine. Waiting can be smart, but wait with a plan. There's a big difference between patience and paralysis. If you're going to wait, use the time wisely. Do what you can to improve your credit. Reduce your debt as much as you possibly can. Build cash reserves. Clarify your location. And set a realistic payment ceiling. A balanced market does not reward unprepared buyers. It rewards preparation. I want to end with this because I think it really matters. Renting is fine. Renting isn't failure. Renting is flexibility. And for some people, it's the right move. You're going to pay for housing one way or the other. The question is that payment building your future or someone else's? And the takeaway is simple. Buy when your life is ready, not when the market looks perfect. Because the market will never look perfect while you're in it. It only looks perfect later on. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments below. Are you thinking about buying a home in 2026? And if you want help figuring out whether the numbers actually make sense for you, I'm always happy to have that conversation. Thanks for watching. I'm George Poporad, and I'll see you in the next one.